hang on just a second. Let me mute everyone and turn off the bell. And you will have to unmute, sir. Aaron?
We're good?
Yeah.
Perfect. Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it into our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. In accordance with our group conscience on October 16th, 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube. We feel that this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight's recap will start on page 67 with notices that, and will end on page 68, Outgrew Fear. And our study tonight will start on page 68, starting with Now About Sex, to page 69, If We Want.
Announcements. Trish, you want to do announcements since you have the dates of group conscience and group servants meeting?
Sure. Our group.
You're muted too.
I realize that. Thank you. This group will be having a group conscience on July 8th at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, and take it on back to whatever time zone you live in. Our group servants meeting will would usually be the Sunday before that, but some of us may be on the road, so we will have to have a discussion on when that's going to be. And our Pickle Fest, for those of you who are in the area of Tennessee or who like last minute travel plans, our annual Pickle Palooza, our 4th annual, will be at Jamie's house, where everybody converges there for a bunch of fun fellowship and hugs in person, because we can't do that on Zoom. And that'll be around July 4th. Some will be a couple days before, some will be a couple days after, but it's always around July 4th each year.
Good times to be had. Okay, they're all in. And good evening, family. My name is Jamie. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of monk meditation. It's not really silent. We got the monks. Followed by our family's fog light prayer. Aaron?
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Aaron. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted, and sharing is to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Aaron?
Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order hands are raised. From the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
My apologies, brother. I did not finish my line. It's one of those kinds of days. For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
Enjoy your time with God. Let's bring those cute little monks in to do what the monks do. And please, let's open this meeting with our family's fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Amen.
And let's have our secretary report. Come on in, Pinky. Oh, I'm sorry.
Cat.
Cat.
Hi, my name is Kat, and I'm an alcoholic. I've asked Nancy to read the recovered statement. Go ahead, Nancy.
No, not yet. Down here.
Nancy, alcoholic, recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism, recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we are cured, we would be able to treat responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body, page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered. Thank you.
We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, Chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time, please?
I don't see any.
No? Okay.
Welcome, everybody.
Mary's raising her hand.
Mary, welcome to the Big Book Study.
Welcome.
And we also have Donta joining us for the first time as well.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay. All right. And then the recovered alcoholics, please raise your hands. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
I think he is.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
I have 33 months, but the milestone that I consider it is the 1,000 days. So today is 33 months exactly, which is 1,004 days. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. Miracle.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that could be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal, posted in chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, posted in chat. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you, Kat. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here, if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 5, and tonight let's take a quick look at Tradition 6. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And tonight our traditionalist is Pinky.
Hi, Alyssa, recovered alcoholic, and I'm going to be doing Tradition 7 this evening.
Oh.
And
Yep, you're
Tradition
right. I'm
7.
sorry.
Yep.
My fault.
Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. So I'm going to read the short form and the long form. So the short form, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. And the long form is, the AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by voluntary contributions of their own members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal, that any public solicitation of funds using the name of Alcoholics Anonymous is highly dangerous, whether by groups, clubs, hospitals, or other outside agencies that accept. the acceptance of large gifts from any source, or the contribution or of contributions carrying any obligation whatever, is unwise. Then too, we view with much concern those AA treasuries which continue beyond prudent reserves to accumulate funds for no stated AA purpose. Experience has often warned us that nothing can so surely destroy our spiritual heritage as feudal disputes over property, money, and authority. So back in the early 1940s, Bill Wilson actually went to Rockefeller to ask him for support. And I don't have the specifics on the conversation, but he did not agree to give financial support. He threw a dinner for them, for AA, and then that was the blooming of the seventh tradition, that you have to be fully self-supporting from within. Our contributions, there's nothing that's mandatory. The only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. But we are fully self-supporting through our seventh tradition. And typically in in-person meetings, they'll pass the basket. And in here, we get to do it electronically. And so it is important, even though there's no requirement for any of us to financially support. For me, it's always been the direction of my higher power. And so there, like I said, there is no requirement on what is to be, but it's imperative that I give something back. And for me, I look at it as like, if I've never been an in-person meeting goer. I have been to 2 or 3 in my lifetime. But if my home group was in person, I would make sure that I'm figuring what's my part for, the rent of the place. Am I covering my coffee? Those are the things that I think of. Am I helping support my home group? Because without the support of each other, we fall. It's, for me, I let my higher power lead that. And I don't worry about the financial part of it. Because one, it's God's money anyway. And, I put it to the right thing. And the rotation as far as the treasuries is one thing that came up monitoring the seventh. The spirit of rotation is healthy, so that no one person is covering those finances for a long period of time. So the spirit of rotation is key in that part too. So that's what I have for you on Tradition 7. And if you have a big book, all of our traditions, I'll start on page 562 in the back of our book. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. And just as a quick example, what we do with our seventh tradition in this group is it not only goes to pay for the Zoom room and the website and everything that we do related to that, but when we go to assemblies, we take big books for corrections. We send Lavinia and Grapevine, and then we make contributions to the 4 entities of Alcoholics Anonymous throughout the year as well. And so we thank you for your generosity and your contributions. Excellent job, Pinky. Thank you. And now it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of things said in meetings that can't be reconciled with what the Big Book actually has to say. Here's one of those things that we hear. I I haven't had a drink today, so I'm a complete success. And who was it that was going to take? Pickle Chips is going to come in and tell us what it says on page 19 in the first paragraph.
Okay, we feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs.
Thank you so much, Tim.
As we study, please make use of pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 67, starting with notices that, which will be read tonight. It was by Larry, and that ends on page 68 with Outgrew Fear, followed by our study portion read by Lisa M.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at where our study portion began with Lisa tonight. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply one sentence answer, split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
So basically, in English, what that means is we are going to read the material once through, and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, observations based on what we just read. If you have a spiritual experience with this information, please, by all means, feel free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you will hear a timer beep. Trish will shake a dog in the screen that's got a new haircut and a pretty bow in her hair today. Somehow, we will get your attention. We might do something stupid like this. So, just keep that in mind.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting? Example, a sponsor. Please do not be offended when we cut the conversation short and send the buzzers nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group. You know how to do this part, Aaron?
And Jamie would love to share how we arrived at this point.
All right. So this meeting started January 2nd of 2020 here in my house at the beginning of COVID with 12 other alcoholics. They got scared and thought COVID was going to kill them, so they didn't come for a while. We started back up as a hybrid because we really did Zoom for them, actually. But then eventually they decided to go back to other bricks and mortar meetings, and we continued on. So we are in our 4th year of doing this. We are in our 3rd season of the Big Book study, which is 94 weeks from beginning to end. And we start out with the first promise on the title page, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And just as we do in this study tonight, we go through absolutely every line of what our study is laid out to be for the 94 weeks. We do it with the preface, with the forewords, with the doctor's opinion, all the way up to page 164, and then we spend 2 weeks. We spend about 5 or 6 weeks on Dr. Bob's Nightmare, and then we do 2 weeks worth of questions with the traditions. And for the final 94th week, we visit the spiritual experience one final time. In this study, we are directed, as we study the pages, to go to the spiritual experience 3 different times. But we felt it was important to have a standalone night on the spiritual experience itself, because it's kind of important to recognize it if we might be having one. So that's how we got here. And tonight we are on week 43. And guess what we're going to talk about tonight, folks? We're going to talk about sex, because that's where the book has led us to this point. So, thank you.
Before we start the recap, thank you, Jamie. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it into our website and our YouTube channel.
Aaron, you're gonna call on your.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Remember, it's your show, brother.
Thank you. After the study, before the first question, for our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence, coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. If those answering questions lose their place, please allow the host to direct them to correct the sentence. We will now open the Okay.
Recap reading.
Yes. And Larry, would you like to start on page 67, please?
My name is Larry. I am an alcoholic. Notice on page 65 that the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did not we ourselves set the ball rolling? Sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on different bases. The basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns us, just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us, and humbly rely on Him. Does He enable us to match calamity with serenity? We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. We ask Him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what He would have us to be. At once, we commence to outgrow fear.
Thank you very much, Larry. And now I have asked Lisa to read our study portion.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there. But above all, we try to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes, perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. Whatever our ideals turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in so doing. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it.
Thank you very much for reading, Lisa. And now for the subject. Jamie?
You're doing, oh yeah, I just have a comment. I was waiting for you to do the questions, I'm sorry. My apologies, folks, I'm really tired today. Comment. Now for the third part of our inventory. Sexual misconduct is another manifestation of our character defects.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And our first question goes to Linda, which is 2 sentences. What do many of us need when it comes to our sex conduct?
You're muted, Linda.
Linda, you're muted. William, you'll need to unmute. You'll need to unmute.
Would I start at that on 68 where it says now about sex?
Yes, ma'am.
Now about sex. Many of us need an overhauling there.
Thank you very much. And our next question is for Nancy. Above all, we try to do what?
But above all, we try to be sensible on this question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Alyssa, is it easy to mess up here?
It's so easy to get off the track. Or to get way off the tracks.
Awesome. Thank you. And our next question goes to, is it both of you, Trish?
Just Kat.
And our next question goes to Kat. What kind of opinions do we encounter when it comes to this topic?
Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps.
Thank you. And our next question, Jim, you had your hand raised? Is for Jim. One side of the debate looks at sex as what?
One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation.
Thank you very much. And our next question is for Nicole. What is the other side of the debate?
Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes.
Thank you very much. And back to Linda. What do they think?
They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind.
Thank you.
Aaron Williams in the rotation too.
Oh, I do apologize.
No problem. Talk about sex. Maybe we should leave me out.
Thank you very much. I will put you back into the rotation, William. I do apologize.
Thank you. Thank you. So
you're welcome. And Nancy, this next one is for you. What do they see?
They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind.
I just read that.
We just read that. They see.
Okay. They see its significance everywhere.
Thank you very much. And Alyssa, this is a two-part question. A, one side would allow what? And B, the other side would allow what?
One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have all of us on a straight pepper diet.
Thank you. And Kat, do we want to set these people straight?
We want to stay out of this controversy.
Thank you. And William, this next question is for you. Do we want to be the judge of anyone's sex conduct?
We do not want to be the arbitrator of anyone's sex conduct.
Thank you very much. And Jim, who has sex problems?
We all have sex problems.
Yes. And the next question goes to Nicole. What would we be if we didn't?
We'd hardly be human if we didn't.
Absolutely. Thank you. And back to Linda. So now, what is the question?
What can we do about them?
I have a comment for you. We treat our sex inventory just as we did for our resentments and our fears. We examine it by using the 4-column approach, just as we have learned to do.
Thank you. And Nancy, we begin this part of our inventory by doing what?
We review our conduct over the years past.
Thank you. And Alyssa, what are we looking for?
Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate?
Thank you. And Trish, or Kat, I am so sorry. Of whom did we make the list?
Whom had we hurt?
And William, do we add those to our list who have been hurt by someone more subtle actions on our part?
Did we? Unjustifiable aroused jealousy, suspicions, or bitterness.
Thank you. And Jim, this is a 2-part question. A, whose wrong do we examine? And B, what do we ask ourselves?
Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead?
Thank you. And Nicole, do we put all this on paper, just as we did the manifestations of our other personality defects?
We got this all down on paper and looked at it.
Yes, we did. And back to Linda. By doing this, what are we really trying to do?
In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life.
Thank you. And Nancy, by doing this, what are we really trying to do?
We subjected its relation to this test. Was it selfish or not?
The following is the first of 3 prayers we are given to help us shape our sex conduct.
Thank you. And Alyssa, what do we ask of God?
We ask God to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them.
Thank you. And the next question is a 3-part question, which is for Kat. A, what must we remember about the source of our sex powers? B, they are there for what? And C, they are not to be used how?
We remember it always that our sex powers were God-given, and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed.
Thank you very much. And this is a 2-part question for William. Are we to determine our ideals regarding our sex conduct? And B, again, what is the key to success in this area of our lives?
Whatever our ideas turn out to be, we must be willing to go towards it. We must be willing to make a move.
Thank you very much.
It is not uncommon to write down what our ideals are.
And Jim, this is a 2-part question. We must also be willing to do what? And provided that in doing so, we do not do what?
We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so.
Thank you very much. And Nicole, how do we treat sex in our program?
In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem.
The following is the 2nd prayer for our sex conduct.
Thank you. And back to Linda. What do we ask of God?
I'm sorry. Is it right here God alone can judge?
In meditation.
Oh, in meditation we ask God what we should do about each specific matter.
Thank you very much. And our last question goes to Nancy. What is the promise of that prayer?
That answer will come if we learn it.
Thank you very much. And thank you to, you're very welcome. And thank you to our readers and our question answer readers. We will now open the floor for sharing. If you have any experience with the portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. A friendly reminder as we share, absence of profanity offends no one. We are open for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. And Alyssa, come on in.
Thank you, Aaron. I didn't want anybody in the dentist chair, so bless you, Jamie.
Thank you.
My name is Alyssa, and today I am a recovered alcoholic. And you know what I love most about these studies is that I get to learn something new if I come in here with an open mind. If I come in here willing, honest about where I'm at, and open-minded. Because in the back it says willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of our recovery, but they're indispensable. So to me that spells who, not how. So without God I can't. So I have to have God first before I can do anything. How it works is great, but without God it doesn't really have that full effect. And so for the longest time, I'm like, where are the directions in the big book for, the fears inventory? Because I wanted something visual to look at, like I was able to look at the first 3 columns for resentment. I wasn't that open-minded then, or it wasn't my time to see what was in front of me. And, I laugh because I've probably done, I don't know how many inventories now, because I get an opportunity to do once a month a run through with a group of people, but it says it right here. One paragraph. We reviewed our conduct over years past. So I'm on to my harmful conduct inventory, which includes steps. Where had I been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom did I hurt? So I'm making my columns. Did I unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where was I at fault? And what should I have done instead? And what I should have done instead, that's God's will. So the assets. When I was doing a 4-step in the beginning, I stopped at column 4. So I stopped at the character defects and I'm, asking God to remove it. But once I understood that there was a 5th column of what we should have done instead, which is an asset to strive for. So that's where I get my power if I'm in God's will. There was so much hope there, because I was looking at 4 steps that ended at the 4th column of all of the things I had done wrong. Well, don't you think I beat myself up enough? And then, because to me, when I write out, if I have a resentment, or if I identify a fear, if my conduct is harmful towards others, and I put that pen to paper, I'm ending on the hope, right? What I should have done instead. And if I'm in God's will, and I'm moving through, with patience and tolerance and acceptance, that's what I should have done instead. Because where I was at fault are my self-will behaviors. right? I'm selfish, dishonest, I'm resentful, I get angry, I manipulate, all of those things left to my own devices that I'm very capable of doing. But being able to add that fifth column in and what does it look like if I'm really moving in God's will? If I have turned it over, like I sincerely took that position in step 3, am I now willing to let God remove from me those things that I've identified as objectionable? Yes, 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 yes. And what that helped me with is when I go to say my 7th-step prayer. And I started doing this more recently is, I ask God to remove my defects of character, but if I have this written down in front of me in black and white, I'm naming those defects that I wrote down. Remove my selfishness, my dishonesty. And then God give me strengthen my honesty, acceptance. And for me, when I started doing that, to go through the 7th-step part of that, that was a game changer. And then I was able to determine, am I going to have, do I owe this person amends? So then I move on to 8 and 9. So that's just been extremely beneficial for me because not only have I identified it, but I'm calling it out by name and saying, you know what, I don't want this. God, this is relieve me of this. So it's not general. And then the other cool thing, what was I going to say? I think I was supposed to say it. Because I don't stop. Once I've started writing and I got it through, I take it all the way through 9 because that's the process. The book doesn't tell me wait, to do your amends or to identify if you need to make this amends. It's a smooth process for me. Of course I'm not going to make amends if I've injured that person. But knowing that process, so if a negative thought comes in my head today, or if like that harmful conduct goes through my head, like, oh, go ahead and do this to them, I think twice because I play that out, right? Like I've heard in the rooms, play the tape through. Well, okay, listen, if you do this, you're someone just got sent back inside. Anyway, not sure that. But it checks my behavior because I don't like to make amends to people that are hurting me at the same time. It helps me. It's an extra filter for me, right? I want to be a changed person. My behaviors are more changed today. But there's some situations that I can get into that, I'm a sick person. So without God, if I'm taking God with me throughout the day, I'm okay. But if I walk away from him or choose not to take him into a situation, well, I'm back in my sickness. And so one thing that the 4-step process is understanding that and applying that daily. What it's helped me do is it's really helped me to check myself before the thought turns into words or actions. Because are you going to harm this person? Are you going to think this through? You made me feel this way on what someone else has said or done to you, but if you do this, you own your behavior at the end of the day. So what's the next right thing to do? So it's actually gotten my mind to go there. And I say this out loud, like, how in the world did this happen to me? I don't know, like, the exact minute or day. I just keep coming back because it's working. And when I'm able to apply it, and it doesn't have to be perfectly, the promises come true. And I'm living a life beyond my dreams. And that's what you guys told me I could do. if I apply the tools to my life, and here I am. And so if it works for me, anybody can. If you put in the action, it works. It really does. Thank you, Mr. Fireman, for allowing me to share that. And thank you all for letting me share. I love you all.
Thank you very much. Wonderful share. And Linda, would you like to come on it?
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you very much to who just shared. But she really shared really good. She really did. I could identify with everything she was saying. Most of the things that she said, I was going to say, and I like this right here because it gives me an inventory of myself, and it lets me, it explains to me about my actions, my behaviors, my thoughts. It talks about the insecurity, the fear, and I'll talk about that. It wasn't so much ego. It was self-centeredness and pride, but it was a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, and I remember that somebody was telling me, they said, oh, my daughter, she's in another relationship. And I told the guy, I said, I said, this is like a thing with your daughter. She just keeps getting in relationships, breaking up, keep getting in relationships. I said, and I guess she's looking for love some type of way. She's looking for love. But she's not going to find it in sex because sex and love is two different things. And he sort of caught an attitude, but, I was just giving him the perspective from a woman's perspective, because that's his daughter. And, I love my daughter and this and that. But sometimes we have to take a look, from our own perspective, to be able to even identify with another person. And I was told to look at things in a different way, try to see things in a different way, try to see myself in a different way, try to take a suggestion. And I was taught from the women in the rooms, it's okay if you're just with yourself, if you're not in a relationship with anyone. If you're not going through the motions and this and that, if you're just with yourself, it's quite okay. There's nothing wrong with you, And one woman told me, she said, as time goes on, she said, and as you become more and more sober, you get closer, your relationship with Christ, with God gets a lot better. Your relation with God gets better. Your relationship taste will change. You will gain wisdom and maturity. And you won't do the things that you did before. You won't allow anyone to use and abuse you. You won't use and abuse yourself. You won't let any random character, get into a relationship with you just because they're there. And you won't be so insecure and needy and afraid. And that was the core of my relationships. And I was told, you're looking for love, and that's, people that you get involved with, they can't even love themselves, so how are they going to love you? And I had to learn in AA these steps, a lot of inventory, a lot of therapy, and I was told to be honest, to be honest with myself before I can be honest with anyone else. And I like what it says, because in therapy, they talked about that, about the sex inventory, about, how it says here something about the lower mentality, and my therapist had told me, she said, lust has no roots. It doesn't develop into anything. She said lust and love is two different things. She said you have to develop love. You have to go through stages. You have to get to know this person. Do you like them? Do you want to be bothered with them? Before you give yourself to someone, you have to understand that you have value, that you're precious. You just don't allow anyone to get involved with you in your life or anything, and it took some time, took a couple of years, but I did learn that. Now I can teach it to other women, and today I am, not can be, but I am a woman of dignity and grace. I'm cautious. My heart is guarded, and I just don't get involved with anyone. Anyone does not make a difference. My first and main relationship is with God. I don't have to act out on my character defects. I like what Jamie said. He said it. Sexual misconduct is the manifestation of our character defects. And I wrote that down. And it's so true. It's so true. You know, as human beings, we want more and more and more. If we get candy and it tastes good, we want more. You know what I'm saying? We go to a movie and we see a good movie. We want to see another good movie. And then we want more and more. We want to satisfy. We want to fulfill ourselves. And we have to understand, you know, we can't. We have to put the brakes on things, you know. We have to be careful, you know. And I told one young lady, I said, you have a right to say no, to protect your future and your health. You have a right to tell a person no. A person is not entitled to you. They're not entitled. They can think that they're entitled, but they're not. I said, you let that person know. You're not obligated to them. You don't even like them that way. You're not interested in them. I said, you tell them. You go down the line. You let them know. And for me, I'm at the point in my life where it's like, and don't even ask me. I'm not a child. You don't have to question me. If I say no, it's like, what part of the no you understand? No, I don't want to go on a date with you. No, I don't want to go to your house. No, 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 no. What part don't you understand? You know, and, you know, the newcomer I had told, I said, you're going to say, you're going to learn to say that no a lot. You're going to learn your boundaries. You're going to learn to respect yourself. You're going to learn to have a quiet life. You can think about other things. I told her, I said, you know, you can have a bike and it can have 10 speeds. And what if you were just running on that one gear? What if you never went to the second, the third, the fourth gear? There's so much more to you than just that. I said, there's so much more to you than just that. I said, you have to look inside of yourself and understand that. And you can't get into that stuck thinking that you are supposed to be in a relationship, that you're supposed to do what someone wants. No, I said, what about you? What about your life? I said, did you go to school? Did you travel? Did you do the things you want? There's so much more out there. I said, it doesn't have to be about this. And nowadays, in this society, I'm not going to go into a tantrum about it, but how people are so free and they engage in so much, you know, these hookups and this such immoral behavior. It's like a norm. It really is. It's like a norm. There's no boundaries. There's no thought about God. There's no thought about respecting themselves. There's no thought about contracting anything. You know? And I talk to my daughters about that a lot. You have a right to say no to protect your health and your future. You know, don't follow the crowd. Don't follow what you think that's not normal. You know, and I like what it says. If we go to God, God will give us the answer. You know, in AA, it says it right here. It says we're not going to be the dictator of anybody in their personal life, you know, their sexual life. But if you turn to God and with counsel, you will get the answer. You will know what's right and what's wrong. You know, and being an older woman in her 60s, you know, it's a whole different mindset for me as opposed to a 20-year-old or 30-year-old. You know, it's a different mindset. So when I get sponsors, I talk to them about, especially if they're young, I talk to them about that. And I didn't even know what Tinder was about. Some guy in my church told me, and me and the other ladies, we were like, oh my gosh. I was like, wow, it's gotten to that point now. You know, one lady was saying, she said, look, Sodom and Gomorrah out here in these, you know, in full effect right now out here in the streets. And I thought about it and I said, you know what? That's the way I look at it. But, you know, that's not the way it has to be. That's not the way it is. I know better, and the women that I sponsor, I can teach them. I can explain to them. And the old-timer men, they can explain to the other men that are coming in. And this is what this is about, this recovery. This is why we have this big book. So we can teach the next person so they will know, and then they can teach the next person. It doesn't have to be a cycle of damaging behavior, you know, immoral, reckless, unmanageable behavior. Thank God that I'm in AA. Thank God that I've learned how to be a woman of dignity and respect. You know, that I went back to school, that I did this, that I did that I can sponsor people. You know, thank God. And I don't have to judge other people in their lifestyle. No, I don't have to go there. But I know for me, you know, I like what it says. With God, you will get the right kind of counsel. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Trish, I see that you have your hand raised.
is thanks, Erin, and thanks thanks everybody. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. And Linda just touched on it, but I love the line where it says, "We don't want to be the arbiters of anyone's sex conduct." What I do or don't do, or what you do or don't do, the act of sex itself isn't really the basis for the sex inventory. But what do I do around it? When I'm mad at you, do I withhold it? Do I demand it when I want it, whether you got home from a long day of work and you're tired? Do I go out looking for it, even if you're not the one I'm in a relationship with? And if I'm in a relationship, am I out doing things and flirting with other people who aren't you? So it's my conduct maybe leading into the act of sex, but it's my conduct around that I've got to look at. And, Alyssa touched on some of it. Where was I selfish and dishonest and inconsiderate? How did I hurt you? Did I arouse that jealousy and suspicion and bitterness? And what should I have done instead? And just like the resentment inventory, I've got to get it all down on paper so I can look at it. And once I look at it, I can see who I really am. Or in some cases, who I really was, and realize I don't like that person. But then we get the directions on asking God to mold our ideals. So I can ask God, help me be a better person. I don't want to do that stuff that I know is going to hurt you. I don't want to do that stuff that I don't really want to do. And maybe you like it and I don't, but I can go ahead and say, like Linda said, it's okay, I don't want to do that tonight. But when I ask God to mold my ideal, and then I ask God to help me to live up to that ideal, that's when my behavior leading up to sex, my behavior around sex, what I do in and out of the room, that's where I'm going to grow. And our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. And how do I use those powers? Do I arouse jealousy? Do I arouse anger? Do I arouse suspicion? Or do I use it for love? And what do I do and how do I use it is what I'm looking for here. Not what do I do in the bedroom, but what's the behavior behind what I'm doing in the bedroom. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Trish. And Larry, I see that you have your hand raised. You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. I think about my sex inventory. It was, man, it was long and torturous. My first marriage, it was probably, my first marriage was probably the only woman that I actually loved, and the only woman that I actually went out on her so many times that I lost count. And I can't tell you why, or I know alcohol had some cause to it, but I can't blame it all on alcohol. And all I do know is that I went through so much torment because of it. The lies, the deceit, and all that went with it. And she never found out. was on the road. I worked out of town, out of state, really. It wasn't even out of town, it was out of state, across many states. And so she never found out anything that I was doing. How, I don't know. She wasn't a jealous type. That was one reason. But she was unhappy in other situations, and just me being gone so much, I guess, and she found somebody else, and she had her one affair and fell in love and wanted a divorce, and of course I became the other side, and it hurt me so much that I guess I decided during that process that I would never ever commit adultery again if I ever got married. And I didn't know if I could stick with that or not, but I got married again to a girl in Las Vegas, and of course my drinking increased, my alcohol increased, but of course I could drink alcohol and do the drug. When I drank, I gambled, so I was only in the casinos, and then I'd go home. I wasn't anywhere where I really was looking for any women because I was in love with gambling, and I went home, and and then I got married, and I didn't do as much gambling because I kind of hid the gambling, but I did a lot of drinking, and I could do that at home. And she was fine with it. Drinking was fine with her, and I could drink as much. I could drink until I passed out. Drinking was fine. So the entire marriage, I never once thought about stepping out on it. We were not. I don't think I ever loved her. I loved her money. I know that. She was a very wealthy woman, and I think I loved that. But I don't think I ever loved her. And at the end, I know she didn't love me. And we ended things, and that was it. We had a prenuptial, and it was over in no time. It was over. It was done over the internet. I found the program after that, and in Alcoholics Anonymous, I remember getting married the third time, and it wasn't for love. Again, it was because I wanted out of my mom's house. And so I got married for convenience again, just to get out of my mom's house. She worked, she made good money, I worked, I made good money, so I figured we'd make it pretty good. It was all economic, and I never even thought about love. I don't think I knew what love was, after my divorce. I just forgot all about it, whatever. And two different times when I took my inventory, I had to think about when I was dishonest, when I was hurtful, when I was deceitful, and I had to think about both of those, my second and third marriages, and I'd go back to both those women and apologize for what what I'd done to them, because I truly had no business marrying either one of them, because and I had to just stand there and said, I am so sorry that I hurt you, and that I really should never have asked you to marry me, and I should have never put you through what I put you through. And, I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to put things right. I hope someday you can forgive me. I know I don't have the right to ask you to forgive me, but, I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And that's kind of how things ended. They neither one of them said anything about forgiving me, but I did at least make an attempt to make an amend to both those women. And there were so many other women that my sponsor said that there was no way that you were going to make amends with all the women that you messed around with, but you were going to have to make some living amends. You were going to have to learn how to treat women. You were going to learn you was going to have to learn how to be a better man, to be a better person, and instructed me that I was not getting into a relationship until I learned. That's been about 7 years ago. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning that trick, how to be better. How to be, how to treat somebody with respect, and not dishonestly. That's what this program is all about. Because my defect run deep. I don't know what made me think and treat women the way I treated them. Because my mom was not like that. But there was something that went on. I know a few things, but I can't say that should have made me treat women the way I treated them. Like throwaways. But I'm so thankful this program taught me that I was that way so that I could work on it, that I could work on being a better person. I'm so thankful for Alcoholics Anonymous, because, you see, now I can be more Christ-like, that I could be more honest and learn that my insides need to be changed. Not just my outside. And if it wasn't for this program, I would have never known those things. I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Thank you very much, Larry. And Rick, I see that you have your hand.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Rick Alcoholic. I know the study starts with now about sex, but as I remember, as we got to this page, my first sponsor had me read the bottom half. Perhaps there is a better way. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. That I was also one that had nothing to write about the sex inventory, because I had it wrong. He says, no, you were going to write about your behavior once you knew it was not going to happen. I was a young man at the time. And wasn't married yet. I asked women, young ladies out who I thought something would end up happening before the end of the night, or maybe very shortly, a couple of days afterwards, how it would be. Is this somebody I could bring home to meet mom and dad? You see, that's the kind of guy this was. Is it good for me? And once I realized the evening, the relationship was not headed in the way that I wanted it to, your phone number was lost. I could put on a poker face and say I don't care when I talk, when others, friends of mine, hey, where's this one? Hey, where is she, the liquor was my friend, and I did drink over it. And when I couldn't drink over it, the way I handled that, what I thought would happen when I had the dry drunk days, it was, F that blankety blank blank blank. So, yeah, my mind was, I remember being called up when I was still living at mom and dad's house. I used to think it was an apartment because it was an apartment built down in the basement. But it's mom and dad's house. To break up with me, I remember those 2 times. Putting on a damn good face and say, fine, see you later. For the one I was supposed to hook up with that night, I was kind of dressed up. I hung up the phone, I dressed down. The muscle car was already prepped and ready, looking good to go. First stop was the liquor store, go meet your boys. And go to the bars where you think you might meet a woman that might just want you for the night. That's how I was, The woman in my life today, I met in a bar I used to DJ at. She was on the outs with her husband at the time, and guys would tell me, Rick, you better watch out, he owns a gun, man. I don't remember caring too much about that. I was thinking about me, and I didn't care he was trying, or they were trying to save their marriage. Eventually I backed out, and here we are today. It's the first woman that for some reason I slowed down and, wow, man, I like this, she's awesome. In those days of running around, not thinking well of women, I went to a bar with some friends of mine where there were young ladies dancing on stage. And one came and sat beside me. We ended up dating for a while, hanging out for 2 weeks. And I remember taking her to the bars. I hung around at, showing her off like I would show off my muscle car at the time. She too called me at mommy and daddy's house and told me, Rick, I want to We had done thing with each other, and I remember hanging up at that time and saying to myself, "Damn man, shoot man, oh man." So for me to sit here and be able to share about those years like they were not long ago is because I trust God and He will refresh my memory. Oh, you don't think you have a sex inventory? Well, what about Rick in the early 70s? I take the line in Bill Wilson's story where he says that alcohol kept him out of those scrapes with other women. There were those here and in other meetings and people I know who do a better history of him and Dr. Bob and know better. Me, I like to take that line because as I was dating her, my wife today, the opportunity came up. I hung around with guys, man, that, we'd end up in Vermont, we'd end up in New Hampshire, just to go hang out. And a couple of times the opportunity came. That's probably the night when my drinking saved me because it kept me out of those scrapes. Because they didn't want to be with this drunk guy the way he is. That's what I figure happened. And so I smile and laugh when I see that line. But for me today, with God, I don't apologize to anyone for him. I have been approached. To not mention his first and last name because I may send a newcomer out again. And I always say, don't worry, the alcohol will bring them back in. Today I say, we never apologize to anyone but depending on our Creator. Yes, I have stopped saying his name, but when I mention who he is, I just say the Son of God. So I love this program. I texted Jamie in detail this morning. An outpatient surgery I went through. It's a little difficult for me to sit for long periods of time right now still. And here's the blessing I have. I was sent home with two things, Tylenol and hydrocodone. And I looked it up, hydrocodone, and it works on the mind. It fools the mind into thinking the pain is not really there. It's the way I read it. It's not the words, but it's the way I looked at it. So I haven't used it. Tylenol's working. And a good friend of ours told me one time before he passed away, when I used to ask, why aren't you using your oxycodone or whatever he had? It was always a full bottle. He would say to me, God has my pain back. Rick Walsh. So he's been on my mind today. So I ran off too long. Thank you.
Wonderful share, Rick. Thank you very much. William, I see that you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Aaron. My name is William Alcoholic. Thank everybody for your service tonight. And thank everybody for sharing. Thanks to the ladies too. Thanks to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and men and women so that we can learn from each other feelings and stuff like that. And thank God for being us sober enough to hear and to understand, and I love the way Bill writes. In this writing tonight, he makes me look at myself and makes me think, And I like the part up there where he said, we all have sex problems. we hardly wouldn't be human if we did not. You know what I mean? And the first thing that popped in my head when we read that part, I thought about Adam and Eve in the garden and what happened in the garden. You know, and I thought I was living on a farm, and I seen the cows. They mate at a certain time. The chickens and all they do their thing. But we humans are different, you know. And you know, and I like the part where he say, our sex conduct, if it be that negative part, our sex conduct would be is like stealing, you know, stealing somebody's peace, stealing somebody's trust, you know. And I learned all that in Alcoholics Anonymous. Shit. I learned all that in Alcoholics Anonymous. And whenever you say alcohol and sex sit up there around the same level, up there, the same level, and that is so true with my life, with my life, you know. And I tell you, you know, it didn't hurt me. I didn't see nothing until it turned on me. You know, I don't think I ever had nobody to cheat on me, but I had a breakup relationship because of my conduct. And boy, that was a hurting feeling, you know. And, you know, all the stuff I did, it couldn't take away the pain. What was happening at me at that time. In that particular time, I had this young lady in my life. You know, we both were working people, doing whatever we need to do, you know, to have a successful life and stuff. You know, I would be out on the weekend for 2 or 3 days at a time. You know, I didn't notice this until I came in recovery. You know, on the nightstand, she would have, she didn't drink. She would have a Huntington in the Bible on the nightstand. I never paid attention to that until I started hearing these steps, you know, that the thing that I was doing to her. When she was a manager at Bank of North America, she would ask me, she said, what you be doing out there? We were staying out there days at a time and stuff. And I told her I was gambling. And she said to me, I still remember, she said, I could take $100,000. She opened and closed the bank. I would come, drop off at the bank. She'd open up. I'd come and pick her up. She'd close it. She said, I could take $100,000 out of that bank, and they won't miss it. If you want some money, I give you some money. And the good side of me say no. Say no. But and definitely she's on that 8-step, next step list, you know. And she broke up and left me. She went all the way down south to Georgia, and I hear about her through her family. You know, she went out there and had kids, invested in real estate, and did well in her life. You know, so but I wouldn't, my behavior wouldn't of that what she had wanted to be. You know. It definitely, I didn't realize it until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. It led me around. I thought sex and alcohol went together. That's why I went to bars. That's why I went to clubs. For the hookups and stuff like that, you know. So, I don't know. It's not like that today. It's not like that today. Thank God for that. And I love when he said prayer and meditation. But I know the effect that you would have on a human life, another person's life. I don't try to take advantage of nobody no more. You know what I mean? And I keep an eye on myself all the time. All the time, I keep an eye on myself, watching my behavior, what I do, how I feel. You know what I mean? And thank God for that. You know what I mean? Because you know, like I say, stealing stuff from people. And I don't have to see it today. I don't have to see it because I have a higher power about it. So thank everybody for sharing tonight and for the reading. You know, because definitely Bill make you think. It make you look at myself. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, William. Glad you're here. And then there was one pickle.
Good evening, family. My name's Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. And in announcements, I fell short on them and forgot to announce our 4-step workshop, which will be on July 3rd, on Monday evening at 6:30 p.m. in this room. What, Trish?
July 1st.
July 1st, I'm sorry. I was just looking at it on my calendar too. Go figure. You know, July 1st in this room. And if you've never been through it, even if you've done many 4 steps, it's a worthwhile journey to come and visit us. You know, last week in fears, we identified and were given a solution to deal with fear in just 4 short paragraphs. 4 paragraphs, that's all. Tonight in the sex inventory, we identified some things about our sex relations. In just, again, 4 short paragraphs. Next week, we will do 5 paragraphs and finish out the sex inventory. Why am I talking in paragraphs? What the hell do you mean, Santuna? I'm talking in paragraphs because we read the pages through and we think in pages. But if we think in paragraphs, each paragraph is instructional and identifying and instructional in nature. And there again, we have a pathway to ask God to show us. You know, the sex inventory, and I was very, very promiscuous, and I've done many things that the gentlemen in this room have talked about tonight. And you know what? The truth is, probably some of you ladies have as well. But that's your inventory, and it's not for me to decide. This is an inventory which is personal to each one of us, which is so important for us to look at to help understand our behaviors. Here's a question. You ever go to bed with somebody 2 or 3 times and all of a sudden you say, I'm in love? That's probably not what love is. It's probably lust. And it talked about that tonight as well. The lower nature of our human instincts. So this whole chapter is not really about the act of sex. It's not about what I like in the bedroom, what I don't like in the bedroom, what I want in the bedroom, or any of that. It's about relationship. And it's about how I have harmed others in the relationship due to my own imperious desires. Back in the 80s, I forget if it was Joan Jett or the Blackhearts or whoever it was, Pat Benatar, somebody like that, had a song, Stop Using Sex as a Weapon. And how oftentimes do we weaponize sex with our partner to get what we want? If you give me this, I'll give you what you want. You don't give me this, I'm going to withhold what you want, so on and so forth. We use it as a control and manipulation tool. And it's one of the things that most couples always fight about, because you can't be happy all the time. That's just part of humanity. I love that where it says here, then we have the voices who cry out for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. You know, I used to shack up. Is that bewailing the institution of marriage? Absolutely it is. and I loved being married. And, every one of my wives, I loved them at one time. Just something so deep inside of me was broken. And yes, most of it had to deal with sex. And I love here where it says the troubles of the race. It's not talking about color, it's not talking about national origin or any of that. It's talking about the human race. The human race, the human condition. One of the things that we do in a 4-step workshop when we start doing this sex inventory is we take a look at each relationship standalone on its own, how it started, what it was like in that relationships, what were the dynamics that were troublesome, fighting over money, sex, religion, children, politics, the family. Those are the generals that we fight about. So what I had to do was I had to take a look at all of the damage that I had done. In the past few years, I reconnected with a fiance from 40 years ago, maybe 41 now. And we were great together until we weren't great together. And we were broken. And both of us were lost, if I'm honest about it. And she's honest about it, and we've discussed that. But the amazing thing is because of the process all the way through, I have been able to look at my part in it and not say what her part is, but show her a pathway so she can discover what her part in it was. And because of my faith in the way that I live today, it has helped her step into a deeper faith with her God. Now, some of us may have been in marriages where I ain't never talking to that so-and-so again. They can just get the hell away from me. And in many cases, that is often true. But this is another one of those inventories, and when we come to the amends process for it, that we have to approach it with the spirit of forgiveness in our heart, regardless of what was done to us. If we approach it with the spirit of forgiveness in our heart, we are very likely to have a favorable outcome and heal that brokenness, even from 40, 50, 60 years ago. Does that mean that we're going to go have sex with that person? Absolutely not. But what it means is we're probably going to come to a place of spiritual healing with one another. And that's been my experience. That fiance from 40 years ago, she and I are good, trusted friends with one another that can talk about anything, including sex, to help have a deeper understanding of it. But we ain't having sex, and that's a good thing. All of the years that I spent wanting it, chasing it, doing all the things to get it, today in my life, what I do is I put all of that same energy into my relationship with God. Now it talks about our sex ideal. And it says specifically, we ask God to help us mold our sex ideal. That means I don't have to dream up a whole bunch of stuff. But what does it really look like? It looks like probably a healthy relationship with communication, without anger, without fear, and being able to talk to one another without the fear of one another getting mad or getting upset or berating one another or any of those things. Because if that happens, then one more time I'm headed into a disastrous relationship, just like all the relationships of the past. We have another 5 paragraphs next week that bring it up and round it all out. And when I do, in this inventory, I still have to 5th step it with someone. I still have to take a 6th step on it. I still have to take a 7th step on it. If I've done the list properly, I already have my 8-step list in hand. And I will be prepared to make the amends when God presents the opportunity for me to do so. Now, some of us are a bunch of old codgers in this room. Some of us may be coming up on 40 and 50-year high school reunions. You never know. We go to those high school reunions. We may see somebody from the past that we harmed when we were young. Or someone that harmed us, as the case may be. But we won't really know it unless we do the work that is outlined in these 9 paragraphs. 9 paragraphs, that's all. 9 paragraphs will allow me to see my complete and whole truth, so that should I see that person from a class reunion, I am prepared to the best of my ability to make things right. And I love the passage in here where it talks about we want to stay out of this controversy, and we do not wish to be the arbiter of anybody's sex life. As a sponsor, I don't pass any judgment whatsoever about anybody's sex life. That is not my place. It is way above my pay grade, and I absolutely do not tell them what to do. My responsibility is to take them through the work to find their God, so that they can find the pathway that is right for them. And I believe that that truly is a fearless and searching moral inventory of ourselves. But I can't do it if I live in fear and say, oh my God, it's too overwhelming. Here's the interesting thing about the sex inventory. We look at it, we look at all the people who pass through our lives, and it becomes very overwhelming. But here's a little bit of a humorous thought. We only have to take and inventory each individual one at a time. One at a time. Now, we might have 14 people, we might have 37 people, we might only have 2 people. But we were only involved with those people one at a time. So don't worry about the whole 14. Just start with the first one. How do you know where to start with the first one? Which one is causing you the most pain right now? You can work backwards or forwards through them. Sometimes when we're in relationships, sometimes when we're married, it's important to heal from the past so that we can live at peace and harmony in the present with our significant other. and not continue to cause emotional baggage and emotional pain. This process is to help us live a quality of living that lets us truly live the fruits of the Spirit. I know what the fruits of the Spirit are. I know that they're in Galatians in the Bible, but it is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that has helped to develop the fruits of the Spirit within me today. And I couldn't have done any of it without that book in my hand, without practicing it. I can read it, and all it does is become knowledge. When I take the action to do the work, it becomes experiential knowledge. When I go through the amends process, it becomes more experiential knowledge. Thank you. I love you all.
Wonderful shirt. Thank you, Jamie. I like the paragraphs. I like that. Simplify it.
It does make it kind of simple, doesn't it?
It does. Thank you very much. And at this time, we are going to close off this portion of the meeting. We are going to close out, and when we come back, if you did not feel like sharing while on audio, feel free to share afterwards.
Ready for me to read?
I am, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna add this part in tonight because I think it's very significant. You know, the first 100 who wrote the personal stories and who laid out this process for us, we do meet them through this book. We meet them through the experience, strength, and hope that they left us. And we have their experience to pull from. I have someone that I sponsored that hasn't said it in a while, but always says, trying to figure it out, man, trying to figure it out. Well, guess what? I don't have to figure it out because it's already been figured out for me.
Yeah,
it's right here in the pages. So I'm going to start with this. Still, you may say, but I will not have the benefit of contact with you who write this book. We cannot be sure. God will determine that. So you must remember that your real reliance is always upon Him. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. And might I add, the sex ideal as well? Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We will be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road to happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I no longer try to figure it out. And here at Primary...
I wasn't calling names.
I just like that. I know I said it a lot. Here at Primary Purpose, we have a very special way of closing out. Since we cannot hold our hands in a circle, we hold our hands up and we close with the Lord's Prayer. who took us from shame to grace if we let him.
Our
Our
Father,
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for staying up.
Good to see you.
Good night, everybody.